the immigration thing. The way it looks is horrific. When you're just arresting people in front of their kids and just normal, regular people that have been here for 20 years, that everybody who has a heart can't get along with that.
No.
Everybody who has a heart sees that and goes, that can't be right.
So we continue to track Joe Rogan's departure from the MAGA orbit. We did a video about this yesterday with respect to Trump realizing that Donald Trump is orchestrating the cover-up of the Epstein file, something that Rogan cares a great deal about. One of the other things that Rogan has been rightly on Trump's ass for with increasing frequency and egregiousness is Trump's cruel and draconian immigration policy. This is not the first time that Rogan has spoken out against how cruel and dishonest Donald Trump has been with his deportation policy. Now, I would point out, as I'm sure many of you would, that yes, Trump sometimes said, well, we're going to go after the criminals. We're not going to go after, the people who, yes, are here undocumentedly, but who have been productive members of society, who have not been breaking the law, et cetera, and so forth. But he also, in previous statements, indicated that it was indeed a mass deportation program with the goal of getting literally everybody who was here undocumented out of the country. So it really depends on how much charity he wanted to give Trump. Joe Rogan made the mistake of giving Trump far too much charity for no damn good reason. But again, as I'm going to play the rest of this clip, it's really important that we give recognition to someone as influential as Rogan, whether you like it or not, that he is calling Trump out on his show for these egregious policy decisions. So let's hear the rest of it, and then we'll look at some other information, some other data, some other articles written about the American people kind of aligning with Joe Rogan on this, which is like, hey, in theory, I'm all for deporting undocumented immigrants, but Trump has gone way too far.
That can't be right. That can't be the only way to do this.
Right.
Because you have to think, look, yeah, we have to have a border. Yes, it should have been secure. Yes, they should make sure you know who everybody is before they get in.
Yeah.
But when people have been here for 20 years, like, come on, man. That's crazy. Like, let's find a way. If they've been productive members of society for 20 years, no criminal record, they worked the entire time, they paid taxes, find them a pathway to citizenship. Find a way where you can do this thing that you want to do, which is keep terrorists and cartel members from getting across the border with drugs that kill 100,000 people a year. Okay, but also have a fucking heart. Because
I just want to stop right there. Again, in theory, nobody has an issue with that. If you look at the polling which says, okay, do you believe in deporting immigrants who are here illegally or without documentation who are criminals? Yes. What about, violent immigrants who are here illegally? Yes, of course. Democrats don't disagree with that. There's no disagreement there. There's no dissent. It's a pretty wide sweeping consensus issue. The problem is exactly what Joe Rogan is talking about. What about when you're targeting predominantly people who are not the people that you claimed that would be the primary subjects of the deportation, the hardened criminals, the murderers? You're not targeting them. You're targeting other people. You're targeting people who have not done these egregious things. That's where the fracture starts to occur. And then, of course, you get into all the civil liberties and human rights violations that have been caught up in that as well, how they have unlawfully sent people like Gilmar Abrego Garcia, for example, to a place, El Salvador, the one place on earth where an immigration judge said you can't send him there. And they did it anyway. Or Andre, the gay hairdresser that they accused of being, part of TDA Trinidad, a gang member, and they just snatched him up because of a tattoo that has nothing to do with gang symbology. Or what about all the detainments and arrests and physical violence against not just immigrants, which is bad enough, but also U.S. citizens and immigrants who are here legally? All of this together, this confection, is what's causing Joe Rogan to speak out so passionately about it.
If you don't, you're not going to get anybody on your side. If you're doing this stuff publicly, throwing women to the ground, handcuffing people, just for existing on the wrong side of the dirt. Not a criminal. Not the only crime they ever committed was coming over here as a kid. They probably didn't even know what the fuck was going on.
Man.
A lot of kids got snuck across when they were already born in Mexico. And they've grown up their entire life in America. They can't even speak Spanish. And they could get sent back.
So I appreciate that Joe Rogan's getting worked up over this. He's obviously pissed. I appreciate that. Again, it's frustrating because on the other hand, I'm just thinking, dude, if you were paying attention, this should not have been a total surprise, right? But what's more important is undermining Trump in the future, preventing Trump-aligned Republicans from maintaining or getting power in the future. It's winning the 2026 midterms. It's winning the 2028 presidential election in such margins as to be able to not only undo all this terrible shit that Trump has done, but to better protect the United States against a fascist like Trump. So I think Joe Rogan publicly criticizing Trump is an opportunity for liberals, progressives, and Democrats to try to court Rogan again. Again, it doesn't mean make excuses for him. You might even talk about it honestly with him when you get on a show. Hey, Joe, try not to piss you off, buddy, but since we're talking about this, since we're breaking bread, having a good faith conversation, can you explain to me, I mean, why did you think that Trump would do anything other than this? Like, what about all these times? You could say, Jamie, pull up all the times that Trump said he was going to do X, Y, and Z. Did you not hear about this, or did you just say, he's full of, walk through me with that. But the bottom line is these people, Rogan, Andrew Schultz, The Flagrant Podcast, Theo Vaughn, Tim Dillon, these MAGA and MAGA-coded commentators, podcasters, and comedians, they help sanitize and launder Trump. And given that they're walking away from him now, that could undermine his coalition in a meaningful way. I said that we were looking at that we would also look at some information provided in this article, which helps corroborate what Joe Rogan is feeling, because it's important that somebody as influential as he feels this, but it's also becoming a widespread pushback, a widespread rejection of the Trump administration's projects, their implementation. Voters favor deporting those in the United States illegally, but say Trump has gone too far. This is from the New York Times. A Times Siena survey shows a majority of voters believe the Trump administration is deporting mostly the right people, even as a majority also say the process has been unfair. 9 months into Donald Trump's mass deportation campaign, registered voters largely support the idea of removing immigrants who have arrived in the country illegally, even as majorities say they feel his methods have gone too far, according to the latest survey from the New York Times Siena University. Since Trump returned to power, his administration has enacted a new travel ban, sought to pull temporary humanitarian protections from hundreds of thousands of people, flown immigrants to countries where they are not from, and deployed federal law enforcement officers to Chicago, Washington, D.C., and other major cities in a made-for-TV show of force to combat crime and illegal immigration. In that time, the share of registered voters who favored deporting immigrants living in the country illegally, 54%, has remained unchanged. More than 90% of Republicans, 52% of independents, and nearly 20% of Democrats continue to broadly support the idea of deporting those who are here illegally. More specifically, 51% said they thought the government was deporting people, mostly people who, quote, should be deported, while 42% said the government was deporting the wrong people. Quote, I feel there were a lot of people who were brought into the country that shouldn't have been brought into the country, said Laura Lechner, 67, a Republican and retired radio traffic manager in Wichita, Kansas. She cited the record levels of migrants who entered the United States under the Biden administration, saying she believes some had been granted legal status without being properly vetted. Quote, removing them is the right thing to do, she said. Shaban Benatali, a 33, a home delivery driver in Virginia who voted for Trump, said U.S. immigration laws would prevent the Trump administration from deporting people who were in the country legally and should not be removed. He said he also trusted Trump to get it right. Stupid. Quote, even Trump can't deport a legal person, said Benalti, who immigrated from Azerbaijan 6 years ago and has obtained citizenship. Quote, if he can, maybe it's for a crime and it's for the safety of America. At the same time, the public appears to be wrestling with the Trump administration's aggressive immigration tactics and how mass deportation has been carried out in practice. Videos and news reports have captured federal agents surrounding or chasing down immigrant street vendors, delivery drivers, and construction workers. Clashes between officers and activists and observers have broken out at courthouses, workplaces, and front yards. The apprehensions have entangled the beloved community members, undocumented parents with American-born children and spouses, and U.S. citizens, many of whom have been Latino. More than half of voters, 53%, think the process of deporting people has not been fair. 44% said it was mostly fair. A similar share, 52%, disapprove of Trump's handling of immigration. 46% approve. And 51% said his actions around immigration enforcement had gone too far. So again, I want to be clear here. Please don't get discouraged by the first part of that, even though it is discouraging. People say, again, in theory, in concepts, kind of like Doge, right? Do you remember how when Doge was a thing, the polling around Doge was like, yeah, in theory, I have no problem with this group or some sort of like watchdog coming in and trying to audit the federal government and making things more efficient. It's the same thing here. In theory, a majority of Americans say, yeah, we should send people out of the country who are here without documentation. But majorities of Americans also say the tactics suck. Your approach has been cruel, and the handling overall of immigration has gone too far. It's not been fair. It's been excessive. It's gone too far. And we disapprove of how Trump is handling the theory, how he's executing the theory of immigration. This is what Joe Rogan is talking about. In the Trump era, it's not been uncommon for people to hold what can seem to be contradictory views of the president's agenda. On issues like crime, tariffs, and immigration, voters largely support the aims in concept, but believe in practice Trump's actions have gone too far. A small but substantial share of voters, roughly 15%, really embody that dissonance when it comes to immigration. They exist in the complicated middle, saying they are broadly in favor of deportation, but believe Trump's administration has been unfair or gone too far. These voters are much more likely to identify as Democrats and Republicans. They largely disapprove specifically of Trump's job performance on immigration, but also see a need for increased immigration enforcement. So again, what Trump has done is he has snatched, at least thus far, defeat from the jaws of victory. This was a polling issue in a policy area which worked overall in his favor, and he is absolutely tainting it. He's alienating people like Joe Rogan. He's alienating a majority of this country who, again, say, in theory, in the broadest possible terms, we support the overall initiative, but your execution of it is cruel, it's unfair, and we disapprove of it. So who knows where we will be in, I don't know, we're already almost 9 months into the second Trump administration, where we'll be in another 3 years and 3 months. But this is not good for Trump. And as we get closer to the midterms, this is only going to do more to drive away people like Andrew Schultz and Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan. And I think that will backfire spectacularly on the Republicans in 2026, all else being equal. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.